Welcome to the swamp. The time has come to sail into the Bimini Belt and conclude our search for immortality. Last year, I made an early access review of this game. Now, all 5 major locations have been added, and it's time to pick up our conquistador armor and dive back into the Caribbean to search for the Fountain of Youth. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. So I've played this game more than 40 hours and I have finished the game with most of the locations explored. The Fountain of Youth is a survival game where you were once on a ship belonging to Juan Ponce de Leon in search of the famed Fountain of Youth within the New World. Now, in history, Juan did in fact look for this fabled fountain, but never found it. Juan Ponce de Leon was also the governor of Puerto Rico, where he died. In this game, it takes the story of his search and fantasizes it a bit. You sail between a ton of islands, which are a bit closer to South America rather than North America, while trying to find and return to your captain after being lost at sea. You have to survive the harshness of nature at the same time as trying to sail between the islands looking for not only your captain, but the fountain itself. It is recommended to play this game with an above average rig. Myself, I did not have any issues with graphics, lag, or loading of this game, so it's optimized very well. A middle of the road computer might be able to run it, but I wouldn't push it. There is no character creation. You play as a pre-made character, and you never really get to see what they look like, save from their backside in the opening cutscene, nor do you really learn their name or anything about them, only their voice as they narrate the story during your progress. For that, I'm not going to rate this section. You start with a cutscene setting up that you are on one of the ships to look for the Fountain of Youth. You wake up in the middle of the night hearing a disturbance. One of the animals of the New World had escaped their cage and you need to dispose of them, which acts as your combat tutorial. The whole ship segment at the beginning is basically for learning the basics of the game, and is a soft tutorial. After you dispatch the creature, you head to the captain's cabin where a storm catches your ship on fire from the deadly winds. But before you jump ship, you are given the option to take anywhere from 2 to 4 items of iron quality with you. The amount is equal to the difficulty of your save file, so if you play on normal mode, you will be able to choose up to 3 items. Easy mode will allow you to choose 4, and hard mode will let you choose 2. Once you grab your items and jump, you are now on the beach of your first island. The game gives you a few more tips and tricks to help you survive, but then you are on your own. The start of the game, I'm going to give a 5 out of 5. It gives you a step-by-step tutorial, a story to start you off, and a lovely gift of starter items to choose from. The exploration is a key component of this game, but also a ton of the world is left open for you to explore as optional content. You realistically don't have to visit even half of the islands to win the game. However, by exploring, you not only find recipes for crafting, but also additional survival skill points and tons of resources. But let's start from the beginning. There are 5 major map sections, and within the sections there are anywhere from 2 to 4 islands or so, of various shapes and sizes, with of course little islands scattered about, as well as shipwrecks. Traveling between the major regions will require a loading screen. However, once you are inside of a region, the islands within that area are free roam to sail between and explore. The map will start out empty. To uncover it, you need to sketch it out with charcoal or ink. The higher in elevation you are, the more of the map you will uncover at a time. Therefore, it is best to find what are called cartographer trees, which will allow you to climb up really high up and map out the area. Though they're not as required on mountainous areas, which put you at a higher elevation anyway to begin with. But if you are down by the beach, don't expect the map to fill out that much. Some of the island have smaller dungeons to explore, with even ruins you can find. There are underwater exploration areas with sunken ships, which can hold a lot of resources that you can't find anywhere else. Just be wary of the sharks and jellyfish. Resource Resources in this game take a damn long time to respawn. Sometimes items like fruit would only take a few in-game days to respawn, but other resources can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to even a month to respawn. So while it's not a finite source of items from the various islands, it does encourage you to keep finding new sources, especially when you reach the various metal tiers. You are given just enough copper to upgrade a couple of your items, but barely any extra for later if you want to fully dick yourself out in copper. Though in other regions, you might find another mine of copper. Same with iron, which I found to be the same, with just enough to progress, but not really enough to make anything else outside of my tools and a few weapons. I feel like giving the exploration a 4.5 out of 5 because I like the fact that most of the very islands are not mandatory, which allows for free roam and exploration with decent rewards. I only dropped it a small point because of the respawn for resources being very slow for most things. The survival of this game is very good. It is similar to Green Hell, where it is very in-depth and realistic. However, it is not nearly as harsh. If you step on a snake, it's not instant death. Even as you obtain status ailments, they are not the end of your survival. You can, in fact, continue to play as normal with all of the various status negatives. The way they work is, when certain negative conditions are met, you have a chance to get stage 1 of a certain status ailment. For an example, if you were out in the rain or soaked from swimming and you don't dry off quick enough, you will get a runny nose, which is stage 1. If you manage to warm up yourself, dry up, eat, rest, you can actually recover from the status without the need of medicine. On top of that, you will gain an immunity boost to help you prevent that status again for a short amount of time. Now, if you continue to meet the negative conditions such as staying wet, being cold, and so on, you will have a chance for the runny nose to progress into stage 2, which is a flu. The various effects don't really hurt you directly in your health pool, but they will affect other things like your hunger, your thirst, your stamina bar, and of course starvation and dehydration will kill you. Food and water at the very start of the game, when you are getting your bearings, may be hard to get, water the most. Though you quickly learn that it's actually quite easy to keep your food and water up, from all of the various plentiful fruits to other food that are available on the starter island alone. Even if you don't collect fresh water for yourself to drink, you will eventually need a source of fresh water for various crafting stations. Of course, all of this can be mitigated further with skills you can spec into, so you can gain these points by achieving progression, or by finding locations and solving puzzles in the world, which will give you another reason to explore. I'm gonna rate the survival a 5 out of 5. It has a lot of depth to it, but is not nearly as punishing as other games, and allows you time to correct your mistakes before they affect you more, which is a great system. The building is very easy to grasp. You will need to cut down trees for logs, each tree granting you 2 to 3 logs, and with each log, you can get up to 4 building kits. Every single building piece only requires 1 building kit, and on occasion, some things like windows or stairs will need like 1 stick or so. So you can make an entire home to yourself by only chopping down a few trees. From the early access to now, a few more decorational items have been added to the game. You still have the fur rugs and animal trophies, but now you have chairs, tables, little knickknacks, and so on to make your home a bit more lively. There seem to be only 2 styles of housing pieces right now though, sticks and wood planks. There is a structure system which indicates to you the stability of the pieces by using a 1, 2, 3 system. 3 meaning it's stable, 2 meaning it's about mid, and 1 meaning it has little stability. There are pillars to help strengthen your house to make 2-story homes, however, you can only place them in the center of a foundation, not the corners, so it kind of renders an entire spot useless. You will need a decently sized house after all, as there are tons of crafting stations. Each station can be upgraded, which sometimes will increase their size as well. So it is beneficial to make tons of storage containers to keep your resources organized. But a new feature from the early access is that now you can press a button to add all of the items that are already in the chest, as a quick sorting and drop method. Another great thing is that you can now craft from chests. So long as the chest is within the home, or at least the area of your house, you can draw from them to craft at tables or even just in your crafting hand. The crafting tables also let you know if it is drawing from the chest or not. The only items that will not draw from chests are fuel items, so wood and coal to start up a fire for certain tables, you will need to have them on hand. Speaking of, when I say this game is realistic, it will take you minutes to hours to craft items. Luckily, it does auto-skip time to craft items, which makes your days and nights go by rather quickly. The game will also tell you what will happen for that duration when you skip, so you can foresee how much hunger, stamina, tool durability, and so on you will lose over a period of time. There is farming in this game now. Each farming crop you can place will have up to 6 crop spots. Watering and fertilizing is very easy. You fill up the water tank and it waters the plants over time, so you don't need to do it every single day. And from what I've seen, it really only needs to be watered while they are growing. Once they were adults, they didn't really draw from the water at all. So I don't know if they actually need water when they're adults, but I didn't see it. And then every few days or so, after the plots are full, you will need to fertilize. But you don't need to really worry about that either, as it only needs it every few days, and the compost bin is a godsend. We finally have a reason to use rotten food. If you were like me, you found a spot to dump all of the rotten food out into the ocean or something, since they didn't really despawn at all. You could throw them out in the world and they would just stay there forever. Well, I jumped back in after them, picked them all up, and I can now craft with them to make the fertilizer for my crops. I think I'm going to rate this section a 5 out of 5. The building is very easy to utilize. I do wish there were a bit more styles to build from, but I can't be that picky. The crafting system, while still a bit extensive, is overall improved with the various quality of life systems, and the farming is super player friendly and useful for your survival. The PvE is still the weakest part of this game. Nothing seems to have changed in terms of the combat. It's still a numbers game. Hit bigger numbers and faster than the other creature and hope you win. Of course, the higher tiered weapons you have, the faster you can kill the enemy. Now, as we progress from the days of early access, you can make firearms and explosives now, which are pretty fun. But you need to use them sparingly, as you will need metal to make ammo, and as I said before, metal is rare to find, giving the really long respawn. You have various types of weapons to choose from though: spears, bows, swords, and even in the late game you have knives, harpoons, guns. In the late game items, you will also find boss battles now. You can find them by discovering the map of certain islands, and you will see a boss battle icon which looks like a big red skull. Overall though, the combat isn't really anything great. The creatures glitch out a lot too with their animations, and I'm just gonna have to rate this a 2 out of 5. The story delivery is decent enough. You of course have environmental storytelling, but you can also find books that tell the tales of previous survivors before you, as well as cutscenes for anything related to the main story as you progress to the various islands or complete various puzzles you can find around the map. The cutscenes are nothing too detailed, mostly slow animated stills to show off the scene of whatever you found. There is one friendly human that I have found so far in the game, though it is optional for progression in the late game. The story delivery is going to be a 5 out of 5 for the many types of ways it delivers and presents the story to you. So the story itself in a nutshell is that you are trying to get back to Juan Ponce de Leon by following his trail that he left behind from his own survival experience. But in the meantime, you uncover traces of other survivors and what they've been up to. But not only that, among them is a murderer and is killing all of the survivors. You must find out who it is and catch up to them before the killer gets away, all while still searching for the end goal of the Fountain of Youth. I won't say much more other than that, as that's just the setup, a brief overview of the story. While it's not as engaging, I didn't think it was terrible. It was just enough to kind of flesh out the game, give it a setting, and giving you motivation to keep going. So for that, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. While I won't spoil spoil the final Bimini Isle region, it is decent enough challenge for players at endgame. It is recommended to bring iron tiered items and armor while exploring, though you can complete it with copper. After you complete the game, there is really not much else of a reason to keep playing, unlike other games like Conan Exiles or Ark. This is not so much of a roleplay sandbox game. While you can go back and be a completionist to explore and collect everything else from the islands that you've skipped over or not fully explored yet, I don't really find a point to after the fact since the goal is already complete. Though one thing I like is that I wanted to mention that with your progression of building ships, there are two different methods and progression for the endgame ships. You can either build a native ship or you can repair a Spanish ship. Having that option and different forms of progression leaves the game a bit more open-ended and allows players to complete it in different ways, and I like that a lot. Though with the other issues I mentioned, I'm just gonna rate this a 3 out of 5. No score for this section, and though as far as I know, there isn't going to be any post-launch updates, at least not that we know of right now, though that can all change in the future. The game now is in a 1.0 launch state, which means what you see is what you get for the most part. The lag was almost non-existent, and I didn't really find any bugs at all. Maybe the occasional creature clipping through the floor, and the cat-like animals like the leopard and the puma, with their models kinda going funky as they ran toward you, but that's pretty much it. So with that, I'm just gonna rate this section a 4.5 out of 5. It is definitely playable, but not perfect. My overall score for the Fountain of Youth is going to be a 4.2 out of 5. It is an overall fun, immersive, and in-depth survival game that can at times test you, but also reward exploration, various puzzles to solve, decent enough story, and simple building. I would just say that I wish that the combat was improved upon a bit, and there were a few less crafting stations, but beyond that, I definitely recommend this game for anyone who wished to try it out. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world, sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out.